Hello, everyone. So I'm live again today. And without a plan, which is usually not a good idea, but this is stuff I know about. So we're going to do this impromptu, no script, no assistance, just me and you. If you have questions, type them in and we'll answer them. One of the things I see more and more lately is people decrying automation and AI. And I'm not just talking about generative AI when it comes to art, imagery, or movies, or creative writing. Let's set all that stuff aside. And if you're looking at those and saying, oh, look, AI is terrible, we need to stop it, um, the what you're doing is looking at about the equivalent of the frozen food section at the grocery store. There's a lot more to AI and automation than sits in that little space. A ton more of it. And to say, oh look, that's the stuff that's going to kill us. Tip of the iceberg. Okay. And when I see people getting upset with automation, that's the stuff they're kind of talking about is the AI and whatnot. Yet I see other types of automation coming along that nobody seems to really care that much about, but it's doing the same thing. And what do I mean by the same thing? Well, you say we want to destroy jobs and take over this and take over that and whatnot. And I work with AI, I work with automation every day. It's my life. I PhD in physics. I've been doing it for 20 plus years because it's how we do solve problems in the lab. Now, is AI evil? Is automation evil? Let's put those two things into separate buckets for a second. Automation, is it bad? Well, if you look backwards in time, you will come across a time when this was how you connected phone calls with large groups of people saying, who are you calling for? Connect the wire, send it up to that office. That was just the 1960s. Okay. 60 years ago. That's not terribly long ago in the history of man. Now that no longer exists in 60 years. All those people went elsewhere. And that's great. That's fantastic automation. We love that one, right? Now let's look at another one that came up across my X feed today. I'm finally learning to call it X instead of Twitter. This one popped up, and it seems like people were going, "Hey, this is cool. This is awesome." Well, what this is a giant machine that lays out building material so that humans don't have to do it. Same effect, putting people out of work, but it's a different group of people. Now, if you look at the AI space and what I've seen in the startup world, I work in the venture capital world. I work with a bunch of investors. I've got a company of my own. I've had several in the past. I've put money into companies. Please don't send me a business plan until this is over, and then see if you still want to. The If you look at what we're seeing as far as continued use of AI and automation in the early stage companies, we're seeing a lot of companies that want to sell out to a larger corporation. It's like, oh, I'm going to build this thing and then it's going to be bought by that company over there or whatever it is. And that's a viable plan for a startup firm. That's not unusual. But you're also seeing more and more automation aimed at more and more regular everyday jobs, not just, artists, not just writers, not just that kind of stuff. You're seeing a lot of it everywhere, and it's showing up pretty fast. I present to you the McDonald's in Texas that runs with pretty much just robots. I think it takes 2 employees 24 hours a day to keep this thing open, but it's mostly robots, from taking your order to making the food right there. You can see they've got a robot doing that. And, we've got robots doing all kinds of stuff in the back. And, that's another form of automation. And that's not even AI. That's just automation stuff. Hi, Jacob. So it occurs to me that what we're doing is arguing over the little noodly edges. And one of the things I've seen in the startup space more and more is custom done automation or large language models. Bear with me for a second. Large language models mean a lot of things to a lot of people. that are very specifically trained for an industry. So if you take public information and train a large language model using that public information, you can do some interesting work. For instance, I looked at one about 2 years ago that now is becoming commonplace, and because it's dirt cheap, that uses an LLM to replace researchers at a law firm. So you feed it all the old case history, those books and books and books that lawyers have about all the old cases and what they were about, and feed it into the computer. You type in your large language model, find me all case history involved with this, and type it in. Pops up, gives you the answer. It's as accurate, if not more accurate, than the actual research team, and takes virtually no time at all. Now, how many jobs for paralegals is that going to replace? That's just one industry. If you go down the list from fast food, which we've seen, actually a number of places near me have been using a voice to text thing for ordering, where I just pull up to the drive-through window and I order, and you can tell it's a computer typing in my order. And then there were some gotcha videos on YouTube. It's like, oh, look, I confused it. I'm like, yeah, but you can confuse a human too, pretty simply. So I'm not calling that a victory, right? That's not the way it works. So you've got fast food, you've got lawyers, you've got construction. If you go down the list of even call centers, you're starting to see a lot of automation. And personally, I wish that was better, but so far it's not. But if you look at how fast this stuff is coming, it's not the same speed as a normal revolution. What do I mean by that? Well, a lot of times I'll try to talk to people about this, and they'll say, well, yeah, but the Industrial Revolution, this revolution, that revolution, blah, 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 blah. Those took decades. If you think about where AI was 2 years ago versus where it is today, there's a big difference in between those two things. Okay, massive difference in between those two things. And it ain't going to get slower. It's going to get faster and faster and faster because these things have gotten better. The processing chips have gotten better. We've gotten better at having the computers being sort of self-educating. And even if you restrict it to non-copyrightable stuff, there's still a huge use for those large language models. And what do I mean by not copyrightable? So if you take public information that's not copyrighted, as in copyright has expired, there are large swaths of encyclopedias, there's large swaths of other stuff that is just expired. And you can train that without stepping on anybody's toes on copyrights. So it's gone. Disney built a company around copyrighted material that was no longer copyrighted. Okay. Yeah, it's the only, I've seen that too. I also see a lot of things where people claim it's AI and it's not. Mike, I'm not disagreeing with you. And I think by and large, what's happened now is AI kind of gets lumped into all automation. It's like, oh, if it's automated, it must be AI, right? I've got a company that's a social media tool that uses a predictive analytic. And it's really just a predictive analytic, but people are like, oh, it's AI. I'm like, not really. And like, yeah, predictive analytic, that's part of AI. I'm like, okay, if you say so. But predictive analytics have been around in math for 50 years. I mean, they're not new. They've gotten better, and yeah, we use a computer to do it instead of a human because I'm analyzing petabytes worth of data, but it's still a predictive analytic. And that ties into a large language model, do some analysis and some other bits, but it's a predictive analytic on the back end. Now, if you look at another part of that, and people are like, well, AI might take our jobs. AI might take these jobs. Well, yeah, but so did all this other automation, and nobody really yelled about that. But now it's the tech guys, that are kind of winning out here. So everybody's mad. But it's not different this time. It's kind of the same stuff. It just affects a different group of jobs. It's starting to affect white collar jobs, a lot of white collar jobs instead of blue collar jobs. So now we're angry. And it's starting to affect artists and creators, and now we're angry. Well, okay, it's just a new tool set. Now, if you look at the challenge we face because of a lot of this stuff, and then I'll get to how to write a business plan for a startup. If you look at the challenges we face as a nation or as a globe, I think globally for a minute, what you realize is that things have a price. This book has a price. By the way, it's the creator of Doom, so I'm wearing a shirt today. Not advertising Doom, but there's a new one coming out, and I'm a big fan. So, John Peterson, great book. Sorry, John Romero, not John Peterson. Anyway, long day, and it's only 9:30. So how to put this? AI, if you're not using it, you are likely to be replaced by someone who is. Okay, it's going to go that direction. So you may not lose your job to AI, but you might lose your job to a guy that uses AI, and all of a sudden one person can do the job of five, right? So now here's the other problem. Things cost money because of scarcity. This book costs money in physical form because they had to put it in a binding. John had to write it. There's some scarcity there. And it has a certain cost associated with it because of that. My car has a certain cost because of that. If we automate everything and make everything much easier, the scarcity starts to go away. So prices could come down. Of course, lots of jobs go away in the process, so we have this little problem. So we have to kind of ask ourselves, are we looking in the right spot? Are we figuring out the right answer to the question? Automation's not leaving. You can argue, oh, it needs to be regulated. You need to not be able to fire people. I'll tell you what's going to happen. If you say, oh, company A can't fire people, let's pick on Tesla for a minute. Tesla can't fire people, but they're using AI and automation. Okay, shut Tesla down, open up a company called Tesla, replace the E with an A, and not rehire everybody. Problem solved. So you can't regulate that particular one out of existence. And then, Tesla is going to take over for Tesla and the same stuff occurs. Or somebody will come in and disrupt them that does use AI and automation and won't just hire as many people and puts them out of business. Same effect. So what do we do as a world? How do we answer this question of, scarcity is gone? What's the answer to the problem now? I don't know, right? Because we all live in a country that it kind of is designed for dual income families more than anything else. And as a single dad, I'm like kind of glad I have done well over the years personally, because I don't know how some people with just one income make it in the town I live in anyway. Anyway, I think we're trying to look in the wrong spot. We need to figure out how we define success and how do we define income, right? So I'm not advocating universal basic income. I'm not advocating any of that stuff, but I am saying we got a problem where there's going to be a lot fewer jobs just 5-6 years from now than there are today. And who knows what to do with all the people. Now, that's a question I can't possibly answer because I'm not in charge. All I do is build systems that work. Now, I do work with venture capital groups, and yes, I am opening a video game studio because I feel like opening a video game studio, and that's what I want to do. If you are sending a pitch to an investor, please, I beg of you, and you would not believe how many people miss this. I see the inside of a lot of deals. Please include customer, product, or service in your pitch. Define those items. Define where your company is going to receive some income. If you do not define that, you will either not get a return phone call or you will be treated very politely and you'll be escorted out and you will never come back. Okay? That seems basic, but that's actually something a lot of people miss is how are you going to produce some income to sustain this thing other than just investors continuing to put money in? Because they're not going to do that forever. They're eventually going to want to get some of that money back out. That's why it's called an investment, so that you can get some return. They don't do it for fun. If you are trying to get a hobby funded as a business, don't bother. Okay, if you're trying to say, ooh, I like to play games and I want to start a game that's my game that my friends and I enjoy, awesome, good for you. But you're not likely to get that funded by a large group. If you're trying to start a company that actually will appeal to a mass audience, that's really where you want to go. So if you're saying, hey, look, I'm going to do a game that applies to, men ages 18 to 55. They're all going to love it. Women may not like it that much, but that's my target audience. Here's how many of them they are. Here's how much it's going to cost. Here's how much it's going to cost to develop. Here's how much you can expect to earn as a return on that. Well, all those are good things. So if you can accurately define your market, how much your development costs are going to be, how much you can intend to sell something for, those are things investors respond to. It almost doesn't matter what industry you want to work in. If you want to develop a TTRPG business, if you can define how big your market space is, what your development costs are going to be, what your production costs are going to be, and what your retail value is going to be, and you can get some kind of a return on investment, that's a pitch people will listen to. If you can't define what the potential market is, you've got a problem. And let's take TTRPGs for a second. So tabletop role-playing games, if you're not familiar with it. I've seen a number of pitches personally where people are like, oh, I'm going to go take down Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast. You will not do that. Okay, if you're going to go into a space and say, I'm going to take down the gigantic name recognized around the world, you are going to be treated very politely, but you will never, ever be seen from again. Okay? Speak from a position of realism. Don't think you're going to walk into a space and suddenly be the biggest kid in the room. Okay? Anyway, that's kind of where I was going with it. Just find those things. And Mark, I've seen that one. I actually was talking about one of those I was looking at one a year ago, 2 years ago, that actually works. It's developing revenue that is in the legal space, that takes the place of research associates. You just type in what you want and it goes and finds it. Boom, bingo, bango. There you go. So yeah, those things are out there in the legal space. It could put a lot of lawyers out of business very quickly. So that's coming fast. AI in all kinds of spaces is coming fast. I mean, it's not like you got years left to develop. This stuff is like ready to go. It's just a matter of where do I install it. And I see pitches 3, 4, 5 times a week where people are like, they're down to, hey, look, all I need is marketing money. We've got everything else functional. And if you're down to just trying to raise money for marketing purposes, that's you're there. You've kind of won, right? That's an easy investment for most investment houses to think about. Some want to see a little bit of revenue first, but most of them, if you look at it from a perspective of, hey, I've got a functioning product and I'm just trying to do marketing, they'll put some money in. But anyway, that was my point today. Was, look, guys, AI is not going away. Automation is not going away. You can scream about it all you want. It's here to stay. Learn to use it. Don't learn to use it. Entirely up to you. But it's not leaving. Okay, so I hope everybody has a great Monday. I hope things turn out the way you want them to this week. My birthday's next week, so I'll be around this week. I don't know if I'll be around next week or not, but it's going to be a fun week for all of us this week. So we will see everybody soon. Don't forget to click like and subscribe if you see me on YouTube. And if you see me on X, go subscribe to me on YouTube. I have more video content over there than I do on X. So we'll talk to everybody soon.